How can you paint with a straw?
How did they make a samurai sword? Ah!
How can you move without losing your balance?
How?
How? How can you make a matchstick stand to attention?
It's super glued there.
It's not glued there at all. Look, I've just taken it off. Grab a match, the pair of you, and let me show you how. You bend your thumb like so, stick the match fairly hard into the wrinkliest bit, straighten the thumb out, and the match will stand to attention. Carol, let's look at yours. It's because you've got no wrinkles.
Oh,
Gaz,
nice.
you're so wrinkly you could even do it on the side.
Maybe. Yeah,
Really?
kind of.
But that is how to make a match stand to attention. Yes.
How the deuce can you put the bounce back into your old tennis balls? Well, if you play tennis, you'll know that new tennis balls are really bouncy and the old tennis balls aren't so bouncy. And the reason for this is that tennis balls are full of pressurized gas. And after a while, the more you hit them, the gas escapes through the skin of the ball and it stops being so bouncy. Let me explain. It's just like a balloon, really. You blow up a balloon, and then a few days later you come to it, and it doesn't look like this at all anymore. It looks like this. Now, the gas hasn't escaped through the end of the balloon. It's actually escaped through the surface of the balloon, and it's exactly the same for tennis balls. So how do you get gas back into the ball without piercing it and making it completely useless? The answer is one of these things, a sophisticated piece of technology called a reflating device. All it is two tubes with an airtight seal around the edge. What you do is you take your old horrible ball that's no bounce anymore, slide it into the tube, put the lid on the tube like that, and tighten it up. And as you tighten it up, the air pressure inside the tube increases. But what happens to the ball inside? Well, the ball is surrounded by high pressure air, which forces the air back in the way it left, through the skin of the ball, back inside the ball. And after a while, you open up the reflating device and your ball has returned to its previous bouncing quality. Now then, it takes a little while for this to happen, so here's one we reflated earlier, as they say. And once you've opened it up, you will see that your ball is indeed, once again, truly bouncy. And that's how you put your bounce back into your tennis balls. Now I make that 15 love. Vorderman to serve. New balls, please.
Dangerous man. Now, how did they make a samurai sword? First of all, look at this model of a samurai warrior from feudal Japan, dressed completely from head to toe in magnificent armour. Now, I have a couple of original pieces of samurai armour here. This is protective covering for the arm. It's solid at the hand and on the forearm, but it's just chainmail around here so that it's flexible enough for the warrior to fight. Another piece of armour was, of course, the helmet. Now, the helmet had a hole in the top for the long, dark ponytail to come through, and it's an extremely heavy one, this. It had covering at the back of the neck to ward off any unwanted blows. But the most important piece of a samurai's armour was, of course, the sword. The sword so powerful it could cut through anything, including people. But what made this sword so strong? In fact, it was the way in which it was manufactured. This sword was made of over 1 million layers of iron.
It would take years to make something of 1 million layers.
Well, you would have thought so, Mr. Gaz, but in fact, I shall show you something quite remarkable, not of iron, but of dough. Now, I have a length of dough. If I fold it once, I have 2 layers. If I fold it twice, I have 4 layers. If I fold it 3 times, I have 8 layers. and so on and so forth. Because every time I fold, I double the number of layers I have. And would you believe with just 20 folds, I'd have 1 million layers. And if you look at this sword, you can see some tiny lines, which is where the layers of iron have come through. And that is what makes this sword so special, and that is how they would make a samurai sword.
How do you paint with a straw? Well, you've got to do this. You've got to turn your straw into a paint spray. How do you do that? Well, let's take a look at this, because what we've got here is very fast-moving air going over a tiny nozzle, which in turn leads down into this jar of liquid. You know the old theory? Fast-moving air, the lower the pressure, allowing the liquid inside to come up and out and be blown away. Rest your gas. So how do you do that with a straw? Well, all the books say you cut your straw near the end, 3/4 of the way across, like so, and then you bend it over like that, stick it in your liquid, and blow. It's nice in theory, but it doesn't work. You just get a nice blow, a bubbly effect. But my research says if you put another piece of smaller straw inside the original one, so it just peeks over the top and becomes your nozzle, that will then, hopefully, do the trick.
Well done, Fred.
Oh, fantastic.
And it does. So how do you turn that into art? Come with me. Now we shall see if this works using ink. Exactly the same sort of straws. We'll start with a bit of canary yellow.
Very pretty colour.
What a blow, lad. Go on
Very
in.
nice. Let's have another colour.
Another
Fred.
colour? OK,
Yes.
a drop of blue. Not so successful. Let me revert to my original model. See if that happens.
Oh,
Yes,
fantastic.
lovely. And now a drop of brick red. What have we got? I'll show you what we've got. We've got H. O. W. How, and that's how you paint with a straw.
How do you walk without losing your balance?
Well, you just sort of walk all the time, don't you? I mean,
Yes,
I do.
you don't lose your balance
you don't.
when you walk.
You're wrong. You're both horribly wrong. Allow me to explain. Right then. Now, walking's really simple. What you do is lift a leg in front of you. Nothing happens unless you allow yourself to lose your balance for a moment till you regain it in this position. And you lift the other leg up and lose your balance again. And then lift your leg up and lose your balance and lose your balance. And so walking is actually the action of constantly losing and regaining your balance. Now, Olympic athletes, if they're good runners, good sprinters, they actually lean forward so they're constantly off balance, so they run very efficiently. Now, if it still isn't clear, meet someone who will demonstrate this whole thing inverted. This is international gymnast Jackie Brady. Jackie, can you do a handstand for me, please? And now lose your balance. You ever seen anyone lose their balance so beautifully? All right, handstand again for me, Jackie. Now this time, throw your weight forward. And look, Jackie has to put her hands underneath her weight because she's losing her balance and would fall over unless she moved her hands. That's the only way you can move forward. Now Jackie has such infinite control over her balance that she can actually straighten up and make it seem that she's completely balanced, but is in fact falling forward and in every direction, perfectly controlled. Jackie, that was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Superb. Now, how did they stop Scotland from blowing up? Well, they did it by using one of these.
This is a potentially good how. What is it?
I shall tell you in a moment, Mr. Fred. First of all, a long time ago, in the wilds of the Highlands, Alfred Nobel, the man who invented dynamite, set up a factory to produce it. Now, the most dangerous and explosive part of dynamite is nitroglycerin. And it must be handled incredibly gently. Catch, guys!
Fred!
Now, if you're going to manufacture something like dynamite, you have to do it very carefully. And there was one man in the factory who had a particularly important job, for it was he who had to watch the nitroglycerin mixture to make sure it didn't overheat and explode. It was a bit like watching milk simmering, making sure that it doesn't boil over the top. Now, if the nitroglycerin mixture did overheat, the guard would just simply release some water into the mixture, cool everything down, and it would be safe. But the problem was, as you might imagine, it was a boring job. He would have to watch it and watch it, and afterwards just want to nod off to sleep. The problem, how do you keep him awake? How do you stop the factory from exploding into smithereens? The answer was the dynamite stool, a one-legged stool upon which he would sit and watch, and watch, oh, watch. And when he fell asleep, he simply fell off. So it was the dynamite stool which kept him awake. It stopped the mixture from boiling over. It stopped the factory from exploding, and it saved Scotland from blowing up.
Here's one. How do you make a rubber band jump? I'm going to make this rubber band, Fred, Carol, leap from these two fingers to these two fingers without the aid of a safety net. Watch carefully as they go up. How about that?
Gasp! How's it done?
Easy, easy. Here you go. Have a rubber band each. Carol, nice colour-coded one for you,
Oh,
Fred.
thank you so
Yes.
much.
Right, this is what you do. Hands up.
Hands up.
Hands up. Then you put your rubber band over your two little fingers there.
Yeah.
Like that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you
Yes.
bend your other fingers forward. And as you bend your fingers forward, pull this band out.
Yes.
Slide them inside.
So all of them go
All four
inside.
fingers go inside like that.
Right.
Cross your nails, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
You got it?
Yeah, got
And
it.
then when you bend your knuckle forward like this, you can see what happens this time. As I open my hand, it switches like that in slow motion. If you do it fast enough, it looks really good.
Okay, let me try.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Well played.
Do it fast.
Fred?
How's that?
Well, it would have been nice to see us in the first place. But that's how you make a rubber band jump.
How do you complete a circuit? In fact, come to that, how do we three complete a circuit? The solution to this how lies beneath this silver salver. It's something very exciting called Factor X.
But what is it?
I can't show you yet. I've first got to show you how a simple circuit works. We need some power, so we've got a battery. We need something to power, so we have a bulb. We need a small switch, which we have here, and we've got wire connecting the whole thing up to make a nice little circuit. So when we put the switch on, the bulb goes on
So the
like
switch is Factor X.
No, the switch isn't Factor X. Factor X, we're getting towards it if we introduce another element, and that is water. Now, of course, if you were using mains electricity, which we're not, we're using a 6-volt battery, you wouldn't put water anywhere near it, because that's the quick way to get electrocuted, as many people are every year. And in fact, if you're trying this experiment, make sure you've got someone with you, like me, who knows exactly what they're doing.
Like you, Fred.
Exactly. So the water now is part of the circuit, but nothing's happening to the light bulb, not until we add some salt. And keep your eye on that light bulb, because if my theory is correct, the bulb is alight. Look at that, you see, salt
so the
and water.
salt is Factor
The
X.
salt and water helps us towards Factor X.
What is Factor X? Will you tell us?
Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever on How To, Factor X. Timmy the Duck. Now, I know he looks a little bit stupid, but in actual fact, he illustrates perfectly all that I was trying to show over there, because he's a complete little circuit within himself, a battery and wires, and a couple of contact points on his little bottom there. And when I stick him on the metal tray, he completes the circuit. That acts as a switch, and he's cheeping away quite happily, but I'll take him off the tray, and of course, that stops the whole thing.
But what about the how? How do you or we can complete a circuit?
Good question, you see, because he's away from the tray now, so water and salt would make him work.
Yeah.
Our bodies are full of water and salt. So in theory, if you and I stick our fingers on his little contact points and then
Yeah.
I touch you, say, on the nose,
Yeah.
we'll complete a circuit. Let's see if it works. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Fingers on and touch. Yes, you see, a little circuit.
Fred, what's that behind
Yes,
you?
what's this,
Some
Fred?
real heavy metal now, and the circuit, the like of which you've probably never seen before. I'm not sure if Timmy's up to it. Let's find out. What's going to happen is this. I shall be connected to the radiator on this hand, and my other hand will be connected to Timmy.
Okay, I shall connect myself to Timmy on this side here,
Yes.
and I shall connect myself to a coat hanger on this end.
Yes.
And I shall also connect myself to the coat hanger and to the radiator.
Now, in theory, then, that circuit should work the moment I touch the radiator. Let us see if the how is successful. Are you ready?
Yes.
Now! Yes! Wonderful! And that, well done, Timmy, is how. For now.